First, I'd just like to make the point that we're very fortunate that His Majesty has allowed us to use Buckingham Palace for this event, and I need to say that, because...
The shoes hit the old stone floor first, polished, black, deliberate. They moved down a corridor inside the palace where the morning light came in slow and gray, and where the men in dark suits had already lowered their voices to almost nothing. Outside, the cameras waited behind a rope line. Lenses pointed at a door that had not opened yet. Inside, a small group of aides leaned close to one another, and one of them said a name twice, Harriet. Then he said it again, quieter, as if the word itself could start a fire. Something had already shifted. Nobody announced it. Nobody printed it. But the people who read rooms for a living felt it the way you feel a draft before you find the open window. The rumor, when it finally broke, sounded impossible. It said Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, had shocked the nation. It said Queen Camilla's son had been pushed aside, stripped from a place near the crown. It said Peter Phillips and his new wife, Harriet Sperling, had somehow become the calm new faces inside the royal frame. People read the headline and laughed. Then they looked closer. Then they stopped laughing. This story is not being told as confirmed palace fact. It is a careful look at how royal watchers read a series of public moments, and how those moments turned into something that felt like a verdict. According to reports circulating in the British press, the questions started small. They always do. A seat, a photograph, a name spoken in a corridor by people who had no reason to be nervous but were, hi, viewers. Before we go one step further, I want you to tell me honestly in the comments, if you had to bet your own money right now, do you think Princess Anne planned this, or did the camera simply catch something the palace never meant for you to see? Because here is the strange part. The first detail that unsettled the royal watchers had nothing to do with Queen Camilla's son at all. It had nothing to do with Tom Parker Bowles, the man everyone would soon be arguing about. The first detail was smaller than that, and somehow heavier. It was about where Harriet was seated. A seat sounds like nothing. In most families, it is nothing. You sit where there is room. You sit beside the person you came with. But inside the royal world, a seat is a sentence written without words. Who sits near the front? Who sits beside the Princess Royal? Who is placed where the long lenses can find them in one clean shot? These things are studied later, frame by frame, by people who have spent their whole careers learning that the palace rarely does anything by accident. And that is what made the corridor go so quiet that morning. The aides were not whispering about a scandal yet. They were whispering about a placement, a decision, a small arrangement of people that, once the photographs went out, could not be taken back. The cameras outside still waited. The door still had not opened, but the story had already left the building in the minds of the few who understood what they were looking at. They knew a picture was coming. They knew where everyone would stand, and they knew that the moment the public saw it, they would start asking the one question the palace never wanted asked out loud. Once people noticed that seat, the rumor changed shape. The headline said, stripped. The law said something colder. Tom Parker Bowles is the son of Queen Camilla from her first marriage, long before she became queen beside King Charles III. He is a food writer, a public figure in his own right, a familiar face at events, but he is not a descendant of the late Queen Elizabeth II. And that single fact is the wall that the entire scandal slams into. Because to be stripped from the line of succession, a person first has to be in it. Tom Parker Bowles never was. Read that again, the way the royal watchers did. The word stripped suggests something was taken, a title, a place, a right. But the official line of succession is not built on marriage or affection or how often the cameras find your face. It is built on blood and on law, and Tom Parker Bowles sits outside both, exactly where he has always sat. The legal wall behind the warm palace gossip is older than almost anything else in British public life. The Bill of Rights of 1689 helped set the rule that Parliament, not a king's private wish, controls who may inherit the crown. The Act of Settlement of 1701 went further, fixing the succession to a specific royal bloodline and laying down hard conditions around it. And in modern times, the Succession to the Crown Act of 2013 updated the rules again, ending the old practice of placing younger sons ahead of older daughters and removing the bar on marrying a Catholic. None of those laws can be undone by a frown across a banquet hall. None of them can be rewritten by a seating chart at the races. That is the point royal experts kept making as the rumor spread. From a strictly legal standpoint, There was no throne to take from Tom Parker Bowles, because there was never a throne in his hands to begin with. So why did the story catch fire anyway? Why did people who knew the law still lean in? Because law is only one kind of power inside the royal family, and almost everyone senses it. There is the power written in old statutes, signed and sealed and binding. And then there is the other power, the kind you cannot find in any act of parliament. The kind measured in who stands beside the monarch, who gets the warm photograph, who is folded into the family picture, and who is quietly left at its edge. The public confused the two. That confusion is the whole engine of this story. They saw a man connected to the Queen, assumed he must be near the crown, and then assumed he must have fallen from it. The press circulated the drama, the comment sections filled, and the cold, legal truth that nothing had legally changed at all did almost nothing to slow it down. Royal biographers have long debated whether the modern monarchy survives more on law or on image. The law keeps the institution standing. The image keeps the public loyal. And in the matter of Tom Parker Bowles, the two split cleanly apart. Legally, he lost nothing. But in the picture the public was about to study, he was already being moved to the back of the room. And the kind of power Tom Parker Bowles appeared to lose was not written in law. She's queen. Her children are not in the line. That sentence holds the whole quiet ache of Queen Camilla's position. She stands beside King Charles III as his wife and his queen, crowned and titled, present at every great moment of the reign. But her two children from before that marriage, Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopes, live in a strange place, close enough to the crown to be photographed near it, never inside the bloodline that inherits it. According to public commentary and royal media interpretation, this is the line Camilla's family has always lived against. Not a wall of hostility, a wall of definition. The Queen's children are loved, invited, included in private family life. But inclusion in the family is not the same as inclusion in the succession, and everyone close to the institution understands the difference even when the public does not. That invisible boundary is the wound of this chapter.
And I probably shouldn't mention it, but I noticed they were revisiting that particular area with the FAST program, which is Families and Schools Together program, which is another way in for adult learners.
Imagine standing beside the most famous family in the world, sharing holidays, sharing grief, sharing the long, ordinary years that built the relationship, and still knowing that a line runs straight through the middle of it. On one side, the descendants who will inherit. On the other side, the people who married in, or were born to those who married in, welcome but not woven into the constitutional thread. The tension here does not come from anyone behaving badly. There is no villain raising his voice. The pressure comes from the public's own suspicion, the quiet worry that private closeness to the king might one day be mistaken for a public claim on the crown. People watch Camilla's family and ask themselves a question that has no kind answer. How close is too close? When does standing near power start to look like reaching for it? Royal watchers point out that Camilla herself has spent years managing exactly this perception. She built her public image slowly, carefully, through duty and steadiness, earning a place that was once thought impossible. But the image she built was her own. It did not transfer to her children. Tom and Laura remained private citizens with a famous stepfather, who happened to be the king, and no act of affection could change the legal map underneath them. This is where the comparison becomes sharp and a little painful. There is another mother in this family whose children were also born without the highest titles, who also grew up beside the crown without inheriting its weight. But her children sit on the other side of that invisible line. They carry the blood the law recognizes. And so, in the eyes of the public, they carry a kind of quiet legitimacy that no amount of closeness to Camilla could give to Tom. The contrast was always there. It simply needed a moment, a photograph, a public stage to make people see it. And when that moment came, it would not flatter the Queen's son. It would lift someone else entirely, someone who had spent his whole life being described as the most normal royal of all. Camilla could stand beside the king, but her children could not cross the line. Anne's children were born behind. That is why Peter Philip suddenly mattered. She did not raise her voice. She never has to. Anne, the Princess Royal, walks into a room the way a closed door does. Quiet, solid, impossible to ignore once you notice it is there. For decades, she has carried the heaviest public schedule in the royal family. Year after year, hundreds of engagements, little drama, almost no scandal. Reporters who have covered her for a lifetime describe a woman with no appetite for theater and no patience for nonsense. Her power is not noise. Her power is discipline. That reputation matters now more than ever, because in a family shaken by years of public storms, the Princess Royal became the steady one, the worker, the one who simply showed up, did the duty, and went home without making the day about herself. Royal commentators have long called her the hardest working member of the family, and the public absorbed that idea until it became something close to fact. Her children grew up in the shadow of that discipline, and in a choice that shaped everything. Peter Phillips and Zara Tyndall were born without the titles of prince and princess. Anne is said to have wanted it that way, to let her children live with a measure of normal life that royal titles would have crushed. They went to ordinary schools. They built ordinary careers. They stood inside the family, but outside the heaviest part of its spotlight. And here is the quiet twist that the public is only now beginning to feel. That choice, which once looked like stepping back, may have become an advantage. Peter Phillips carries royal blood. He is a grandson of the late Queen Elizabeth II, a true descendant in the line the law recognizes. Yet he carries no princely title, no constant press pack, no daily expectation. He is close enough to matter, distant enough to seem normal. In a monarchy trying to look modern, that combination is rare and valuable. Think about what the institution keeps asking for: faces that feel relatable. People who have not been swallowed by scandal. Royals who look like they understand the lives of ordinary citizens because, in many ways, they have lived closer to them. Peter fits that description almost perfectly, and he never had to campaign for it. He simply is what he is. From a public relations standpoint, that makes him useful in a way no title could buy. He brings the legitimacy of real royal blood without the weight that drags down the more visible members. He has not been the subject of years of headlines. He has not divided the public. He has stayed quiet, which in this family has become its own kind of credential, and his mother understands all of this better than anyone. Anne knows how images work. She knows that the public reads a photograph faster than it reads a statement. She knows that placing the right people in the right frame says more than any official announcement ever could. She does not need to explain herself. She needs only to appear beside the right person at the right moment. Anne did not need a speech to change the room. She only needed to appear beside the right people. Then came Royal Ascot. The carriage rolled, and the cameras did the rest. Royal Ascot opens the same way every year. The procession comes down the track, the crowd turns as one, and the long lenses lift to catch the royal party in the open carriages. King Charles III and Queen Camilla led the royal presence, exactly as the reigning pair should. That part surprised no one. The surprise came in the picture just behind them, because there, in the royal setting in front of a watching nation, came Peter Phillips and Harriet Spurling, appearing alongside Princess Anne. Reports describe the 2026 Ascot outing as Peter and Harriet's first public appearance as a married couple, with Harriet placed beside the Princess Royal herself. To a casual viewer, it looked like a nice family moment. To the royal watchers, it looked like a sentence being written in plain sight. Slow down here, because this is the part that matters. In the royal world, seating is never emotionally neutral. Carriage order is never random. Public visibility is never an accident of who happened to be standing nearby. These things are arranged, considered, signed off on. And when a newly married woman is placed beside the Princess Royal, in the open, where every camera at Ascot can find her, that placement carries weight whether anyone admits it or not. Be clear about what it does not mean. It does not make Harriet royal in the constitutional sense. It does not move Peter Phillips a single step higher in the line of succession. The law does not bend for a carriage ride. Nothing about that morning changed a word of the statutes that decide who inherits the crown. But law and image are two different machines, and the image machine ran hard that day. From a public relations standpoint, the picture said something the palace would never put into a press release. It said Anne's family is calm, united, useful. It said here is a part of this institution that does not generate scandal, does not divide the public, does not need managing. In a family that has spent years cleaning up after storms, that message lands like cool water. The royal watchers caught it instantly. They saw the Princess Royal, the steadiest figure in the family, framed beside her son and his new wife in one of the most photographed events of the British year. They saw blood and stability and quiet usefulness all gathered into a single shot. And they understood that millions of people would see the same image without ever knowing why it made them feel that this corner of the family was safe.
Absolutely. And I don't think either of those two could have been able to cope. They'd been anywhere else.
The palace did not need to release a statement. It did not need to brief a single reporter. The photograph did the work that no announcement ever could, and it did it in silence in the time it takes a shutter to close. And that is exactly why the picture created a problem. Because every image that lifts one part of a family quietly lowers another. While the cameras found Anne, Peter, and Harriet looking calm and accepted, somewhere in the public imagination another figure was being pushed toward the edge of the frame. A man who had never been in the succession at all, but who was about to look, in the cruelest way, like the one being left behind. That photograph created a problem for Camilla's side of the story. The name tag came first. Before the smile, before the dress, before any of it, a small printed card, the kind Ascot hands out without ceremony, and on it a name that the public was only beginning to learn: Harriet. She stood inside the royal enclosure as a woman the cameras had not memorized yet. Newly married to Peter Phillips, watched closely by people who decide, frame by frame, who belongs and who is only visiting. And what those people noticed was simple. Harriet Sperling was not standing at the edge. She was standing beside Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, in full view of the lenses that decide a person's public fate. Royal watchers read that closeness as a signal. Not proof, not a title, a signal. According to reports circulating in the British press, her placement beside the Princess Royal was interpreted as a sign of acceptance, the kind of acceptance that no press release ever delivers but that a single afternoon at Ascot can. Harriet was real, grounded, carefully observed. She was not a character invented for a story. She was a private woman stepping into a public world that measures everything. And this is where the name tag stops being ordinary. In the Ascot tradition, the badge is just procedure, a piece of paper that lets you through a gate. But for a woman entering the royal frame for the first time as a married member of the family, that small card marks something larger. It is the moment a private name becomes a public one. The narrator will say it plainly. The name tag was not a crown, but it was a signal. Think about what that means inside this family. Crowns are inherited. They pass by blood and by law, fixed long before a person is born. But signals are different. Signals are negotiated, placed, arranged. A crown tells you who someone is by birth. A signal tells you who someone is allowed to become. And Harriet, in one afternoon, had received a signal that thousands of people study and very few are ever given. The public felt it without naming it. They saw a woman beside the Princess Royal in red warmth, welcome, belonging. They did not see statutes or succession charts. They saw a family opening a small door and letting someone through it, calmly, in front of everyone. From a public relations standpoint, that image did exactly what it was meant to do. It made Harriet look like she had always been there. But every door that opens for one person changes the room for everyone else. That is the quiet cruelty of royal visibility. The question stopped being whether Harriet belonged. The cameras had already answered that. The new question was sharper, colder, and far more uncomfortable for the people watching from the other side of the family. The next question was no longer whether Harriet belonged there. It was who looked displaced by her presence. This was never about Peter. Not really. It was about the boy who will be king. Step back from the carriage, the name tag, the whispered placements, and look at the real future of the monarchy. It does not run through Peter Phillips. It runs through William, the Prince of Wales, the man who stands first in line behind his father. It runs through Catherine, the Princess of Wales, beside him. And it runs through their three children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, the generation the law has already chosen. That is the truth the whole story has been circling. The Peter and Harriet angle was never a threat to William. No carriage seat moves a man past the direct heirs. No name tag rewrites the line that places George ahead of nearly everyone alive. The future of the crown is settled in law, and the people in that future have names the public already knows by heart. So why does Anne's family matter at all? Because a monarchy is not only its heir, it is the support system around the heir. And royal biographers have long debated whether the modern crown survives more on its direct line or on the people who steady that line from the sides. As King Charles III ages and tries to slim the institution down, William will inherit something smaller, leaner, and far more exposed than the monarchy his grandmother ran. He will need figures around him who do not create problems, people who look stable, people who carry royal blood without dragging years of headlines behind them, people the public already trusts. And when you list those qualities out loud, you are describing Peter Phillips almost exactly. Royal blood, through the late Queen, no princely title, no scandal pile. No daily press circus, a quiet, useful presence in the frame. From a public relations standpoint, that is gold. William will not need more princes competing for attention. He will need calm faces who make the institution look modern and grounded, who remind the public that royals can be relatable. Anne's family, steady and scandal-light, fits that future better than almost anyone, not as rivals to the throne, as reinforcement for it. This is the shift the story has been building toward. Peter was never climbing toward the crown. He was being positioned near the structure that will hold the crown up. The frame around the monarch, the people who stand close and make the picture look secure, may end up mattering more than anyone wanted to say out loud. Peter was not moving toward the throne. He was moving toward the frame around it. And that frame may matter more than anyone wanted to admit. Here is the part that breaks the entire rumor in half. You cannot change the line of succession in a single palace room. You cannot do it with a frown, a memo, or a quiet word to an aide. The crown does not work that way, and it has not for a very long time. This is the twist that makes the whole Tom Parker Bowles story collapse as a legal event and explode as something far more interesting. Modern changes to the royal succession are not private family business. They require Parliament. And not only the Parliament in London. Because of old agreements that tie the crown across many nations, real changes echo far beyond Buckingham Palace. Look at what happened the last time the rules changed. The Succession to the Crown Act of 2013, the one that ended the practice of placing sons ahead of daughters, did not move forward on the king's word alone. It required coordination across the Commonwealth realms, the countries that share the same monarch. According to the public record, leaders agreed to the plan at a meeting in Perth, and the realms then had to align their own laws so the crown would pass the same way everywhere. That means a real attempt to alter the line of succession would not stay inside London. It would reach into Canada, into Australia, into New Zealand, into more than a dozen nations where the same king reigns and where the same rules must hold. This is the offshore truth at the center of the story. The crown may be worn in one city, but the legal architecture that holds it stretches across oceans. Now hold that fact against the rumor. The headline said Queen Camilla's son was stripped from the throne, as if a single decision inside the palace could erase a man's place in the line. But the line cannot be touched that quietly. To remove someone, or add someone, the law would have to move through Parliament and ripple out across continents. There is no secret button. There is no private order. There is only a slow, public, international machine. So the idea that Tom Parker Bowles was secretly pushed out of the succession is not just unlikely, it is structurally impossible. He was never in the line, and even if he had been, no one could have removed him in silence. The realms would have known, the parliaments would have voted, the world would have watched. And that is what makes the panic so revealing. The palace can manage a rumor. It can let a photograph speak. It can stay quiet and let the public draw its own picture. But it cannot secretly rewrite the crown across oceans, because the crown does not belong to one room or one family's mood. It belongs to law, spread thin and wide across the world. The palace could manage a rumor. It could not secretly rewrite the crown across oceans. That is when the story stopped being about Tom and became about trust. Lay the photographs on the table, side by side, and the real fight comes into focus. Not a fight over law, a fight over who looks like they belong. Here is the reigning pair, King Charles III and Queen Camilla, at the front of every frame, exactly where the crown places them. Here is the future, William and Catherine, the Prince and Princess of Wales, with the children who will carry the line forward. Here is the reliable worker, Anne, the Princess Royal, steady in every shot. Here is the new quiet couple, Peter Phillips and Harriet Sperling, calm and accepted. And here, pushed to the edge of the public's imagination, is Tom Parker Bowles, the man people wrongly placed inside a conversation he was never part of. The conflict in this chapter is not legal. It is psychological. It lives entirely in the mind of the public, in the questions people ask without ever saying them aloud. Who looks royal? Who looks useful? Who looks safe? Who looks like they belong in the family picture? And who looks like they wandered into it? Feel the irony of it. Tom Parker Bowles is being treated as though he lost something when the law says he never held it. He was never in the line of succession. There was no throne to take. Yet in the court of public perception, the cruelest court there is, he became the man who fell simply because he was standing near the crown when the cameras started counting. And on the other side of that same picture, Peter Phillips gained attention he never asked for. He did not campaign. He did not push. He stood beside his mother and his wife at the races, and the public handed him a quiet new importance. One man is punished for a loss that never happened. Another man is rewarded for a rise he never reached for. Neither outcome was written in any law. That is the wound at the heart of this whole story. Royal biographers have long debated whether the modern monarchy is judged more by birthright or by image, and here the two split clean apart. The law says one thing, the photographs say another. And the public, scrolling and commenting and arguing, trusts the photographs far more than the statutes, because the most painful royal punishments are not always official. There is no document declaring Tom Parker Bowles cast out. There is no order moving Peter Phillips up. There is only the picture and the feeling it leaves behind, and the slow public verdict that forms in comment sections and headlines until it hardens into something that feels like fact. The most painful royal punishments are not always official. Sometimes they are visual. And the final twist was hidden inside the rumor itself. There was no coup. There was no theft of a crown. There was no secret order signed in a quiet palace room. And once you see that clearly, the real meaning of this whole story finally arrives. Peter Phillips and Harriet Sperling did not take over the throne. They were never close to it, and they never tried to be. Tom Parker Bowles was not legally stripped from the succession because he was never standing inside it. And Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, did not stage anything. She did what she has always done. She showed up, stood beside the right people, and let the cameras record a family that looked steady.
We had a sort of discussion about where or where not we were going to go.
What did you think? What did he say?
Well, he said I had to go with him. I don't remember why.
So what was the scandal really about? Here is the truth the rumor was hiding the whole time. The story was never about who inherits the crown. The law settled that long ago, across statutes and across oceans, far beyond the reach of any single family moment. The story was about something the law cannot control. It was about who the public decides to trust. That is the real exposure. In 2026, people are not only watching who inherits, they are watching who influences, who supports, who appears stable when the institution feels shaky, who survives public suspicion, and who gets buried by it. The monarchy's deepest test is no longer only about bloodlines and acts of parliament. It is about whether the public can still tell the difference between bloodline, marriage, visibility, and power, when a single photograph blurs all four into one. Royal biographers have long debated whether the crown is held up by law or by belief. This story suggests it is both, and that the second one is harder to defend. The statutes did not move an inch. The Bill of Rights of 1689, the Act of Settlement of 1701, the Succession to the Crown Act of 2013, all stood exactly where they have always stood, but the public picture shifted anyway, because perception does not need permission from the law. The palace did not collapse. No crisis broke open, but something quieter happened. The public learned where the real walls are. They learned that the most dangerous threat to a monarchy is not a rival heir, but a moment when people stop being able to separate who is loved from who is legitimate, who is useful from who is entitled, who stands near power from who actually holds it. And that brings us to the quiet truth this entire story was built around. In the royal family, the most powerful person is not always the one closest to the crown. Sometimes it is the one who understands why the room went silent. The one who knows that a seat can speak louder than a statute, and that a single photograph can do what no announcement ever could. If this story made you see the royal family a little differently, do not leave quietly. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story that pulls back the curtain on the hidden power behind the crown. And before you go, tell me in the comments, in the end, who do you believe truly holds the power in this family? The ones born to the crown, or the ones who know how to stand beside it? Share your thoughts, because your view might be the one that makes someone else see the whole picture in a brand new way.